Well, the build log of the CMP T-45 begins. We're going to power this beast with an RC Lander 90mm 9S power plant. We expect to fly it on 5,000 milliamps. She's also going to sport some nice RC Lander all metal retracts. But for now, we're going to start with the nav lights. As you can see, I've drilled and installed the red beacon here, and red, constant red there. Next, I'll be drilling at an angle here to install the wing nav lights, and we'll have a flashing green and red nav lights there. Be back at you when I get that part complete. Well, there's the servos and the for the flaps and the wiring installed, looking great. Well, there's the little holes drilled out in the tips of the wings. Feed that on, reaches all the way to the first servo there. As you can see, we'll be installing wingtip protectors with a little to protect the wings from scraping, as well as the nav lights on each end, and a strobe nav light on the top of the fuselage, and a solid nav light on the bottom of the fuselage, and of course a landing light on the front landing gear when those arrive. She's wired for ailerons and flaps. I think that's about as far as we'll get tonight. Alright, I just take a wire, and of course I tape my wire to a rod and slide the rod in, clear the bulkhead, just work it back and forth there until it clears the bulkhead, and once we see the wire at the end of the bulkhead, well then the rest is easy. We just pull them on through. Alrighty, there you see the wing nav lights functioning, and we'll start working on the tail. Well, I got some templates for wing fences and some little stabilizers that go on the fuselage here. I'm going to lay this out here, and I'm going to cut it with my Dremel, lay it in there, and then epoxy it. As far as the wing fences, we'll fit those into about the third rib in from the tip and epoxy those on as well. Alright, little trial and error. There it is. Good fit. Same over here on this side. It's a good fit. So we'll get those. I think I'll put those on with the paint them and use hot glue, and that fence should help hold the stall off for a little bit landing. Alright, there is the little flat stabilizer epoxied in. It's clear, it might be a little hard to see. Here you can see the back side of the other one where she's epoxied in. A little too much on the zoom there. And over here you can have a look at the fences. They're finely adjusted to fit. I'll paint those, and I think we'll use hot glue on those fences. Alright, this morning we have the tailerons, or excuse me, the elevators with the servos are installed, and as you can see, they'll go we'll go on something like that. We'll get those installed directly, and we're still waiting on the motor, a 9-cell 90 millimeter, and the retracts to arrive. Hopefully not from China. We'll see. Okay, the rudder's installed. It was a matter of a couple of CA hinges and gluing in the ball joint. As you can see, there it is right there. You can see that ball joint will connect to this high-tech HSM2 metal gear servo. So it's a fairly good servo, just in case I should ever learn how to do a knife edge right. We'll have the servo for it. In fact, this whole plane is Metal Gear digital servos, every servo. So that's a plus. This is the control circuit for the lighting, which we'll tidy that up. It's foam mounted, and we'll tidy that up and find a place for it when we start looking at where to add weight for CG. This is taped down right now, but this door flap, we're going to go ahead and we're not going to cut it out. We're going to keep it whole, and we're going to add some trap door hinges and a servo with a timer for the doors. I believe it's called a sequencer. So we'll have a sequencer that opens and closes this door rather than just cut it out. I think that'll look really nice. And so when the gear comes down, the door will open, the front gear will deploy along with the landing lights. Alright, rudder installation's complete. You'll look, there's a little wire wrapped around the bar on the rudder there. That's to limit flexing. That was pushing quite a ways, and it was kind of limiting one direction of travel on the rudder. But that seems to do the trick quite nicely. We've got good play on both sides now. And an annoying little QC issue. They painted this door and taped it down backwards. As you can see, it doesn't close all the way. Flip it around, and she fits quite nicely and tight. So that's kind of a silly mistake on their part. I'm not sure what I'll do. I might just leave this here red and go ahead and paint that red too, or black, or something kind of unique. Okay, well now I've got the elevators installed with the linkage and the servos and the rudder as well. I told you guys about the extra stabilizers. They're painted now, and we'll clear coat those here in a little bit. I've lined up and drilled for the main wing. I'm going to mount it and square it up now. Of course, we'll pull that back off to complete the ESC wiring when the motor gets here, as well as the intake duct work. Well, here's a mock-up. You can see the nav lights working, and the one on the bottom, of course, it doesn't flash. It's just there it is there. And as we come around, we can pick up the green here. So we've got the mock-up of what she's going to look like. Won't be long, hopefully, until the motor and the gear get here and we can continue. I'm contemplating whether or not we are going to put for sure a retracting door on the front gear. I'm considering cutting the cabin here and mounting a worm drive here for the door to work, where I could slip it on, where I could actually control it by another channel. I have the worm gear here. There's the gear, the white motor there. I just don't think I have enough channels though if I do the lights, so and the gear and the flaps, so that leaves me short. So unless I come up with a way to do that, this will probably be all it is, which is really cool anyway. Alright, here you can see the ESC. Had to lengthen it about 12 to 14 inches to get to the to reach the cab. I've also used a programming card to program this high volt ESC to LVC at 9. That's low voltage cutoff for 9-cell batteries, and to run the timing at medium, which is optimal for RC Lander's 9 and 10 cell DPS EDF, which this plane will be powered by, and we should see some pretty impressive performance. So you should really rip. Plan to cool the ESC by mounting the cooling fin just inside the intake ductwork in front of the fan. Not enough to really destroy the vortex or the curling of the air coming in to the EDF. Just pretty much flush. That way we get superior cooling on the heat sink, and the body cavity will also be cooled through the forward vents here, right here, as well as other places to cool the backside of this. We'll probably won't be hammering it 24/7 anyway, so I doubt we'll really reach its capabilities, but cooler is better. Alright, we'll see you in a bit when the EDF arrives. Alright, after trimming the cockpit down with my Dremel, we've got a pretty good fit here. Nice tight fit all the way around, and we'll use a slip lock device here, as well as a couple of tongues here, so that the hatch will go on like that, and then slap, and then slip lock as you set it down like that. That way you have to pull against the wind to pull the hatch open. We're getting that hatch link from RC Jets USA. They've got a nice aluminum link that I found in the thread. A nice aluminum hatch cover, a hatch switch that I found in the RC Group's thread that I'm going ahead and get for it. And that's about all we can do until the motor and the retracts get here. Well, there's our some of our parts are starting to come in. This is the stuff needed to anchor the 90mm to the plywood frame. This little ring is also to adapt the flared 90mm intake to a straight inlet, so that we can slide the intake directly over the inlet and get a good seal there. Also, the hinges arrived today for the servo-operated front gear door. And let's see what else we got today. We got a hatch, a canopy hatch clip, which is going to anchor our canopy nice and securely. And today we're going to do a little work called a vortex generator. I'm simply taking zip ties and cutting them out. I'm going to zoom in here so that you can see a little piece with just a little bit of an angle cut on it, and then we epoxy those to the wing of the plane, and you get something kind of like this. Let me zoom in. These are installed and painted. as you can see, they look very nice. Now the point of a vortex generator is to hold off the stall a bit. There's a front shot there, and as you see the other side here. I'm not exactly sure how vortex generators work, other than they allow the plane to have a steeper angle of attack at a slower speed while keeping the air on the wing instead of foiling in it in a stall. And we need all the help we can get with our landing. This is actually this little stabilizer is actually part of the wing stabilizing vortex generator system that I'm installing here. There is some talk of actually putting a slight stabilizer here with some more vortex generators. I don't know if that's going to be necessary. I think at this point we'll go with these. I may not even use the fences, because I think the fences would only look good if they were installed on the bottom of the wing and not on the top. Kind of gives it an awkward look. Right now I think that looks good, and it's still functional. Well, here we have today. Look what we have here. A 10 cell or 9 cell 90 millimeter aluminum alloy fan and motor for our T-45, and an all metal set of retracts, as well as oleo suspension struts and alloy wheels. And we will continue our progress reports as the build goes on. I'll post it all for you. Here is a monster of an EDF. You can see just the motor is as big as my whole hand. Crazy powerful. We're going to pull this top section off and replace it with, you see that inlet, that curved inlet. That's not going to work with our straight inlet. As you can see, it doesn't no jive. So we have a straight inlet here that is going to replace this this curved inlet, and then we will be able to tape that directly and smoothly to our intake there. Alright, you can see we have the thrust tube assembled, as well as the hold down system, and the wiring is fairly sealed off. We taper down with fiberglass, taper down to about an 80 millimeter exhaust. This heat sink, I'm looking at a way of hard to do this and hold the camera. Just cutting that inside like that, just so that the heat sink gets the intake air going by. And of course, we'll tape that up nicely, and then the air flowing through the canopy of the plane, the open canopy, will aerate the bottom. Most notably, the heat sink will get high-powered air. Be aware that if you're going to use the RC Lander hold-down system for their 90 millimeter fan, modification is going to have to be made here. In order for the fan to sit flat here, either this is going to have to be cut right here, you can see this metal tang, or this is going to have to be remodeled and rebuilt here. This will have to be cut down a little bit further so that this can sandwich one on each side, and then the screws through it, in order to get the EDF dropped down low enough here this way to fit. See, that fits perfectly flush. Without it, it's up here like this. So we have to sandwich that or come up with another install rig altogether, and that's not that hard to do. I'm gonna go ahead and cut mine here so that I can slide mine in forward, and then I'm gonna build it up. As I begin to test fit the ductwork, it becomes clear that now is the time to tidy up what wiring we have along the top of the fuselage, and take the time to anchor a latch block. As you can see from this angle, we have a latch block, and we got there a little hole drilled in it. As you can see, that's for our canopy latch. You don't want to have to fight that after it's done. I believe I'll go ahead and this is a foam mount, it can go anywhere, but I believe I'll go ahead and mount this. This is a lighting board along the top of the fuselage, because once I have the intakes in, I'll have about 2 inches of space there. Also, it looks like my idea for cooling the ESC is not going to work as it's thought. I'm going to have to cut this here in order to get a good fit for the rest of the duct, and if I try to cut the ESC out of the remaining area, as you can see, it'll be cut all the way through. I'm going to look for a different cooling idea. Fitting the intakes is quite a chore. As you can see, I have a hairline crack. Don't know if you can see it or not. Trying to install that. We'll reinforce that with a little epoxy on the back side. Let me give you a hint. Feed them in here. Don't try to back them up in here and then make a U-turn. Feed them in there, and you'll get them. Sliding the EDF in is also a tricky little task. Now would be the time to determine whether to slide this EDF, forward or back, depending on how far you can get there for CG purposes. But it was so far from a completed mock-up. I'm just gonna go with my best guess, and since I'm going with 9S, I know I'm going with a little heavier pack than 6, so I'm gonna go all the way back. I'm gonna go back as far as I can for weight in the rear to offset the additional 3-cell 5,000 milliamp pack. All right, the EDF fan is installed, and as you notice, there's a drop of blue Loctite on the nuts. And the screws are they're pre-drilled, and they're installed with CA to keep this from backing out. Okay, I've test fitted this duct. I've measured the difference from the end of the duct to the fan. We have which gives us 7 cm, and the end of that duct is actually going to be the bottom of this slot. So 7 centimeters. I'm going to cut this right here. So you see, we just don't have room to cut this out and leave that ESC for cooling. All right, well, let's get this cut out and get it mocked up, and we'll see what we can come up with. Alright, here's the next idea for cooling. There's the ESC, and we'll use the speed she's traveling with, as well as the air flowing through the caverns to cool her down. Second choice wouldn't have been my first, but I think it'll be fine. There's the access epoxied into place and taped down. Intakes are epoxied and taped. That will be the finished product. This is our programming access should we need to program the ESC for anything. Programming access under the wing, and of course the throttle. So that's pretty much it for the power installation. So what a clean installation. I don't know if you can see really well in there or not, but it's just clean. So we should expect some really good performance. That is one stout set of retracts. All metal retracts. You just can't get any better than that. It's time to install the retracts. However, they're not quite a perfect drop-in fit. I've cut one side and outlined the other areas in black where I need to widen this up to fit this particular retract. Also, I'm going to shim this up using hardwood. Something like that. I want a minimum angle of attack so that this jet is really low profile to the ground. So this will raise that whole gear inside the plane, giving it a lower effect in the front. The same will be with the wing ones. We'll actually be using a little forward by shimming some. We'll kind of arc them forward. Not that they need to be, they're so stout, but just for looks. Test fit is fine. Ready to glue up the blocks. The wing retracts, they're not a drop-in fit. As you can see, there's quite a bit of cutting and trimming that needs to be done in order to get them to fit along the front here, and then they also need to be a little thicker than the wing. So I've got some shims right here, and we're going to shim those up a hair like that so that we don't push through the other side of the wing. There's also a nice white wheel well where what will be visible will be a finished, nice looking finished product. I'm just determining now whether I want to put any toe in or not. If I want to put some toe in, now is the time to do it, or leave them square. This is what the gear is going to look like installed. I've just got to put some adhesive on this tray here on the cup. There's a cover that goes halfway over the wheel when the covers the strut too, so it'll look pretty nice. And you see I've still got this one to go. There's the forward gear installed. You'll notice the slight angle or the forward rake. There's a shim under here, so this end is higher than this end, which slightly pitches the gear forward, how you can hardly tell at all looking at it, but it is. It's slightly pitched forward, and it just allows the wheels to clear the wheel well. Just perfect, so that the doors will be able to close and not hit that elbow. Motor covers installed, along with a nice little touch for scale. The landing hook for the carrier. That's kind of cool looking. This morning we have the wing mounted on the plane, and we're doing some mixing. We got the landing gear functioning. Looks nice. And as we come around to the back of the plane, we're doing some unusual mixing here. And this is called reflex. When the flaps go down, you'll notice the ailerons go up slightly to assist with the slowing down of the plane. So this is reflex 1, and that's would be a typical approach, and then the landing approach. You can see the flaps deploy. Here's a side view. Okay, flaps going back. and the reflex back. And we also have about 35% differential mixed in the ailerons here, just so we don't get any drag in the turns. We have a little higher on the positive side and lower on the negative side. Elevators and rudders. We have a slight mix of 30% rudder to the aileron, and I don't have any elevator mix to the flaps yet, as I don't know whether they're going to produce any pitch. It's a pretty slow transition, but if it does, of course we'll add that as well. We're getting close, finishing up details, waiting for the pilots to arrive for the canopy, and to finish off the canopy fastening system, and then a little bit of cleanup with the wires, and determine where to put the receiver as well as the wire transmitter. And we're having an issue with the electrics there. I'll have to rewire some of that. The lights are not on again, but I know where that's at. And where to put the receiver and the CG with the battery, and we'll put a battery tie down, hold down system there. So we're about 1 day away from ready for taxi tests and some range testing. It's time to work on the front gear. Right now I've just installed a servo, which will be used for push-pull steering system. This is the front landing light that's installed. Once I get the push-pull installed, we'll set up the hinges for the landing door. I've already I put the sequencer in. It's on the other side, or I'd show it to you. It's just a simple plug, but I'll get you a shot of it next time around. And we also have to put our little nice looking gear door wheel covers on there, and that'll look nice when we get that done too. Getting closer. Fully adjustable push-pull, working just fine. Here's the door to the front set of landing gear, and as you see, I have epoxied a piece of metal down it. That allows me to bend the door, and it'll stay the shape that I've bent it. I have to contour it along that contour there. I mean, it's the fiberglass guys have already got the corners, but they didn't get all the rest, and they got it backwards on top of that. And these are the servo hinges, which will have a single servo right here. Servo will be located right there, which will open that door and close that door using a sequencer to open the door first, drop the gear, put the gear back up, and close the door. And we'll test that as soon as we get this door installed. The canopy, I notched it in and glued the latch. She's actually latched in on her own. However, it's temporary because I haven't got the pilots yet, but she'll be a good fit. Here's the door. The hinges have dried and are functioning. Now we'll just I'll be using this hole right here to connect servo operating to a servo arm that's going to be mounted right here, and we'll have automatic gear door. Yay! Now here's an annoying problem. The sequencer seems to work one way. Watch as I lower the gear, the servo will turn first to emulate opening the door. Okay, door open. Gear down. So far so good, yes? Alright. Let's see. Gear back up. Oh, hold it. Servo and the gear both work at the same time. Head scratch. Head scratch. Well, it seems that the gear sequencer is designed to work with servo-powered retracts, which is unfortunate because the electronic servos detect the pulse as a command to open. So the as long it sends to the servo first, and the gear opens. But when it comes time to close the door, it can't. The electronic gear can't get past the pulse for the servo to close the door, and they both go at the same time, which jams the door in the gear. So I've got the door on already. It's got hinges as we see here. So I'm going to look for a mechanical. If I had another channel, I'd just assign another switch to it. But I'm out of channels. I don't have to get rid of my crow or my reflex. So, thinking about a mechanical option where the door is opened, maybe a wire that's bent and attached to the strut that kicks the door open as the leg passes it, and then a string or a wire that is caught by the leg on the way back up and pulls the door into the closed position as the leg closes. Otherwise, it's off with a hinge door and just fly with it open like most of the other models do. I must take the time to record my frustration with this gear door system. It works just fine. I'm going to hang this servo right here so we can watch it. I have rewired the landing gear to exclude the mains from the gear sequencer. I previously wired the gear sequencer directly from the receiver and then forked and wired the mains off of the sequencer. Okay, I have had difficulty with that. I've now excluded the mains and have added the gear sequencer at the end of the front retract lead from the receiver. Added the sequencer, the gear door servo, and of course the main front landing gear. Now, as you'll see, the servo triggers when I flip the landing gear switch, which would equal opening the door, and then the gear will wait and follow up. Okay, there's the gear, and now there is the sequencer, and then as you see, the gear followed precisely right as it should. Now there's no servo. I don't want to break this door, but I'm going by trying to connect it at this point, because when I go down, you'll see that the servo mechanism and the landing gear try to close at the same time, which would put this door in the way of the wheels as it went down. It would be put at the same time. But however, it's sequenced correctly opening. See, they're both moving at the same time. That would have been a no-no. Why it works the one direction and not the other is causing me great frustration. As you see it again. Gear door opening, gear door, gear rising. Most frustrating. I think it's time for me to take a break for a little while. My frustration grows. I thought maybe I had a bad sequencer that was working in one way. Well, I tried 2 more with the exact same result. My hair is thinning. Servo speed settings from the radio have no effect on the gear door servos, other than slow the whole group of them down before they initiate. I'm out of ideas. It appears clear to me now that these were not designed to work with electronic retracts, that they're designed to work with mechanical servo operated retracts. So maybe I'm going to go to get on the computer and search the web and see if I can find some that are designed to work with these servoless retracts. Otherwise, it's back to the drawing board on the gear door. Canopy latch didn't epoxy very well. As you can see, it's pulling away from there. So what I've decided to do is reinforce it with a couple of pieces of wood that I can epoxy, and I can drill and screw here into the canopy up through the backside. A couple of screws in there too, and I think that'll really support it for some long time use. A nice heavy coat of epoxy on the bottom side, and the wood on the other side should stiffen that up nicely. When the epoxy hardens 24 hours, I'll go ahead and set a couple tap screws through it into the wood. Couple of screws and a little black paint, and the canopy latch is all but invisible. The canopy glass yet goes over that, and so that black will hide it in the shadow. You'll never see it. As far as the little teeth, a little finish grinding those to size makes them fit seamlessly. So we have a nice, very happy fit up front. Very nice, very nice. A little strong canopy should last a long time. Wing fence installed. Same over here. And I'll be touching them up with some red paint. Couple of changes. I decided to mount the ESC where we could pick up cool airflow externally in flight. I also trimmed the landing gear because the suspension travel would have hit and rubbed, and I gave up on the front gear door. It just wasn't in the cards for me. We're doing something like this. And we'll paint it and detail it. So she's just about ready. Pilots are in New York. Should be here in about 4 or 5 days. Look what the T-45 ferry brought. Pilots. I can complete the cockpit, and then this plane will be ready for demo. I installed some foam board for the pilot seats to raise them up a bit. That's what it'll look like installed right there. And I'll paint those and install them and assemble a canopy and get back to you with photos. The canopy is complete. The pilots are installed. The canopy's touch-up paint is complete. She's cleaned up and ready for rock and roll. Ready for her first test flight. Well, she has ground testing to do first.